Do you have any question regarding liabilities? Naintindihan niyo naman po ba kung paano yung mga current liabilities? How do we account for the current liabilities? Can you still hear me, class?
Yes, sir.
All right, so can you see now my screen, class?
Yes po.
All right, so okay, let's discuss accounting for inventory. So, syempre, on your basic accounting, you encountered inventories, right? I think it's accounting to merchandising concern. Can you confirm it to me, class? So, napag-aralan nyo na yung inventory before? Can you still hear me?
Yes po.
Yes. So, I think on your accounting part to merchandising concern, napag-aralan nyo na yung inventories, di ba? So, yung inventory normally, eto sa Tagalog yung mga paninda, di ba? So, English inventory, in Tagalog, mga paninda. So, I think napag-aralan nyo rin to sa conceptual framework of accounting. So, pag sinabi natin inventories or mga paninda, ano yung mga naiisip niyo? Ano kaya yung mga naiisip ninyo, class? So, anyone from the class, kapag naisip natin yung inventory, ano yung nasa isip ninyo? Ano yung naaalala nyo? Ano yung na-figure out nyo when you think of the word inventory?
Held for sale po.
Held for sale. So that's correct. Because inventories are items held for sale. So ano pa kaya aside from that?
Raw materials po.
I'm so sorry. Yes, Krisha.
Goods purchased po.
Goods purchased. Yeah, so that's correct. Di ba, syempre, pag may mga tindahan tayo, yung ibang mami natin, nanay natin, gusto nila meron silang sari-sari store doon sa bahay natin. So, ilan sa inyo or sino sa mga mamis ninyo or nanay ninyo yung merong sari-sari store? Or tindahan? Meron po bang may tindahan sa inyo?
Meron po.
Meron, o 'di ba? So, dati nung maliliit tayo, tinitignan lang natin dati yung mga paninda ng ating mga magulang, 'di ba? Ngayon, nung nag-aral na tayo ng accounting, ang tawag pala doon sa mga paninda na yon, inventories, 'di ba? So, ina-account pala tong mga paninda na to or inventories. So, syempre, bilang mga accountant, nag-aaral ng pagtutuos, kailangan nating malaman kung paano ba ina-account yung mga inventories na ito. So kung makikita nyo dito sa Excel na meron ako pinapresent, ito yung picture. Nakikita niyo po ba yung picture? So ito yung isang example kung saan merong warehouse at nandoon yung mga inventory ng isang entity. So sa tingin niyo, ano kaya itong mga tinitinda nila na ito? Do you have any idea if you can figure out ano kaya yung mga tinitinda nila? Can you still hear me, class?
Yes po.
Alright. So, ano kaya, check nyo po, ano yung any guess, ano kaya yung nakikita nyo sa picture, ano yung mga inventory na yan? You have to exercise your mind, your imagination, your brain. Siyempre, kailangan natin imaginein kasi we are studying theoretically. So, syempre, pag actual practice na, kapag accountant na tayo, iba yung nasa practice. So, dito pa lang, kailangan i-imagine na natin, ano tong area na to, ano yan, bakit siya naging inventory. So, anyone from the class, ano kaya yung nakikita nyo dito sa picture na to?
Warehouse po.
Yes, warehouse, that's correct. So aside from warehouse, ano kaya yung mga nandoon naka-display? Kung titignan niyo
Finished
ng
goods.
finished goods. So, yes, that's correct. It could be a finished good. So, malay ba natin, it could be, that's a factory, di ba? Tapos, warehouse siya ng factory. And then, yung mga naka-display dito, yun yung mga finished goods. Tama po ba?
Yes po.
Yes. So that's correct. So tama si Carmela. So any other idea aside from this picture being a warehouse, ano pa yung mga naiisip ninyo?
Sir, ano po, nakaseparate po yung certain product sa lalagyan po. Tulad po nung nasa picture. Hindi po basta halo-halo.
Nakaseparate yung product na per item, di ba? So paiba-iba. So kailangan properly segregated para located mo kung saang area yung particular product. Kung mapapansin nyo, di ba, sa mga groceries, nakahiwalay yung particular class of inventory sa ganito. Yung mga dilata, hiwalay yung mga dilata, yung mga sardinas, magsama-sama, sama-sama din yung corned beef, sama-sama yung noodles. So, ganun yung setup. Bakit kaya ganun yung setup?
Ano po, sir?
Para organize.
Para organize. So, that is correct, di ba? So, para siyang specific identification. So, ini-specifically identify per class yung inventory para magkaroon ng ma-manage yung flow ng inventory. Nakukuha po ba? So, aside from being a warehouse, aside from proper segregation ng mga finished goods, ng inventory, ano pa kaya nai-imagine ninyo dito sa picture na to? Ano kaya yung na-imagine nyo dito sa picture na to? Sino na yung nakapunta sa sa SNR o kaya sa Landers? Sino na yung nakapunta sa SNR or Landers?
Ako po, sir.
Yes, di ba? Sa SNR saka sa Landers, normally mga ganito kalalaki yung stock nung pagpapile ng mga inventory. Kung mapapansin nyo, sa baba, nandun yung mga karton-karton. Ibig sabihin, ito na yung mga readily available, yung pwedeng makuha ng mga customers. Pero kung titingnan nyo sa taas, yun yung mga large boxes. Ibig sabihin, unopened pa, kasi hindi naman kayang abutin yan ng mga customers. Ngayon, pag naubos na yung sa baba, ibababa nila yung mga large cartons doon sa taas. Ibababa nila, ilalabas nila yung maliliit na carton. Kasi yun yung binibili ng customer. So we have to identify kung sino ba yung target market natin, mga wholesaler ba or retailer. So depende kung paano natin ipepresent yung mga paninda natin, yung inventory, kung sino ba yung target market natin. Siyempre kapag sari-sari store, kapag retail store. Di ba? Yung mga nakapresent doon, mga nakalagay na paninda, mga tingi-tingi, paisa-isa. Kasi yung target market nila, retailers, di ba? Retail consumers. Samantalang yung mga groceries, mga uh, super malls, mga SM, just like that, Pure Gold, minsan, meron sila mga in cartons, in boxes, kasi yung mga consumers nila, yung target market nila, mga wholesalers. So, depende kung paano natin ipepresent yung mga inventory natin doon sa store. So, syempre, bilang accountant, hindi lang tayo nakafocus kung paano natin i-account ang inventory. We have to check as well, or we have to observe paano ba tinitinda yung mga paninda. Paano ba ibinebenta? Kasi kung ang consumer mo, mga retailers, tapos bibigyan mo sila ng pang-wholesaler, mga karton-karton, ay walang bibili sa inyo. Kasi ang gusto nila, tingi-tingi, paunti-unti. Kasi they cannot afford to buy in wholesale. Kasi nga, sila ay yung retail market. Nagigets po ba? Nakukuha po ba?
Yes po.
Alright. So, ito yung example kung paano natin pinipicture out yung itsura ng mga inventories na nandoon naka-place sa isang lugar. It could be a warehouse, it could be a store, it could be a factory, kung saan sila nakalagay. Nagigets po ba? So, let's go back to accounting for inventory. How do we define inventory? Paano natin i-define yung inventory, class? Yes, Carmela.
Inventories are assets held for sale in the ordinary course of business, in the process of production, for such sale or in the form of materials or supplies to be consumed in the production process or in the rendering of services.
So that's correct, di ba? Ang sabi ng accounting standards, inventories are assets held for sale, di ba? Assets held for sale. Bakit kaya siya assets held for sale? Kasi yung pinaka-intention for these assets is to sell it to customers. Nakukuha po ba? Kapag ang intention mo for a particular asset, kapag binili mo siya ay ibebenta mo rin, ang classification mo doon ay inventory. Kapag ang asset ginawa mo, pero ang purpose mo, pinaka-intention mo, ay ibebenta mo rin in the future, ang classification mo doon ay inventory. Sino yung nag-define noon? Anong accounting standard ang nag-define noon? IAS or past 2. So that's correct, di ba? So IAS 2 or past 2. Ang sabi ng IAS 2 or past 2, inventories are assets held for sale in the ordinary course of the business. Bakit siya in the ordinary course of the business? Kasi yun yung kanyang central producing activities. Nakukuha po ba? Paano nabubuhay, paano kumikita yung isang entity? Because of its central producing activities. Pag sinabing central producing activities, ito yung ordinary course of the business. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba? Nakakasunod pa po ba sa akin, class?
Yes,
Yes
po.
po.
Yes, nakikita po ba yung sinusulat ko? Maliit or malaki? Tama lang.
Sakto lang po.
Alright, sige, lakihan ko pa para mas kita nyo. Yan. So, anong sabi? Inventories are assets held for sale in the ordinary course of the business. Which means to say, the ordinary course of the business is its central producing activities of the firm. Kung yung purpose mo ay magtinda, magtinda ng mga prutas at gulay, and then yung prutas at gulay mo, yung inventories mo. Kasi yun yung ordinary course of your business. Ano ba yung ordinary course of your business? Yung pagbebenta ng prutas at gulay. Kung ang ordinary course of the business mo ay yung pagtitinda ng mga isda, and then yung mga isda, yung inyong inventory. Nakukuha po ba? Ngayon, kung isa kang manufacturer, pag isa kang manufacturer ng juice, syempre yung ordinary course of the business mo, yung pagmamanufacture ng mga juice, packs ng juice, then yun yung inventory nyo, yung packs ng juice. Ngayon, kapag magbebenta ka ng isang equipment, doon sa factory, will that be classified as inventory? Anyone from the class? Isang firm nagbebenta or nagmamanufacture ng packs of juices. Ngayon, ibebenta yung isang equipment nila sa factory. Will that equipment be classified as inventory? Yes or no?
No.
No. Why no? That's the question. Why no?
Kasi hindi po yun yung ano, or yung business po nila.
Hindi yon yung ordinary course of the business. That is correct. Even though it is an asset held for sale, yung equipment, kasi yung purpose niya na, after niyang gamitin yung equipment, ibenta niya na, so na-classify na natin siya as assets held for sale, pero hindi siya within the ordinary course of the business. Ano ba yung binibenta talaga nila in the first place? Yung mga packs of juices. So, hindi natin pwedeng i-classify yung pagbebenta ng isang equipment lang to become part of inventory. Nakukuha po ba? So, iba na yung classification natin doon. Ika-classify natin yung equipment na yon as assets held for sale. Non-current assets held for sale. So, ganun yung classification nun. But for assets held for sale in the ordinary course of the business, doon sila papasok sa classification ng inventory. Nakukuha po ba? Nakakasunod po ba, class? Nakakasunod po ba?
Yes po.
Yes. So, balik tayo sa definition nung sinabi ni PAS 2, saka ni PAS 2 or ni IAS 2. Inventories are assets held for sale in the ordinary course of the business. Aside from that, ano pang sabi? In the process of production. In the process of production for such sale, or in the form of materials or supplies to be consumed in the production process, or in the rendering of services. So yan yung sinabi ni PAS 2 or ni IAS 2. Inventories are assets held for sale in the ordinary course of the business, in the process of production for such sale, or in the form of materials or supplies to be consumed in the production process or in the rendering of services. So from this definition, ano yung mga normal inventories na alam natin?
Finished goods. Inventory.
Ano po yung una?
Raw
Finished
materials.
goods.
Finished goods inventory.
So we have finished goods. Finished goods inventory. Diba? Ano pa?
Work in process.
Work in process inventory. Work in process inventory. Meron pa po ba?
Raw
Raw
material.
material.
Raw materials inventory. Ano pa? Meron pa po ba?
Manufacturing supplies.
Tama. Factory or manufacturing supplies. Inventory. So ito yung normally na alam natin na inventory. Kasi ito yung nasa definition ni PAS2 or ni IAS2. Ano bang sabi ni PAS2 or ni IAS2? Inventories are assets held for the sale in the ordinary course of the business in the process of production. So ito yung in the process of the production, di ba? In the process of production for such sale in the form of materials. So, sinabi na rin mismo directly nung definition in the form of materials or supplies. So, ito yung materials, ito yung factory supplies. So, lumalabas, based on the definition of PAS2 or the IAS2, raw materials are classified as inventory. And then factory or manufacturing supplies are classified as inventory. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba?
Yes po.
Nagigets po? Alright. So ngayon, so from these, okay. So from these first two identified inventories based on the definition of PAS2, sinabi, di ba, materials or supplies. So materials or supplies are classified as inventory. But how do we convert it? How do we convert this into finished goods? This should become finished goods at the end of the processing. So paano ba natin pinaprocess ito? Can you, anyone from the class? Kasi, ayun yung sinabi, di ba? In the process of production for such sale in the form of materials or supplies. So, inventory, ang unang inventory na alam natin, raw materials, saka supplies inventory. So, how do we convert this to finished goods? How do we convert this to finished goods?
Pinoproduce.
You have to identify, you have to figure out paano natin to kino-convert into finished goods. Paano ba kino-convert into finished goods ang raw materials or supplies? Nung maliliit pa po ba kayo, umattend po ba kayo sa field trip? Pagawaan ng tinapay, pagawaan ng lapis.
Through manufacturing po.
Yes, sa mga manufacturing, di ba? So ano yung meron dun sa mga manufacturing companies? Paano nila pinaprocess?
Sinasalang po sa production, sir.
Yes, sinasalang sa production. So kapag sinasalang sa production, that is correct, di ba? Pag sinasalang sa production, meron silang nai-incur na cost, di ba? Meron silang nai-incur na cost. Ano kaya yung mga cost na nai-incur nila kapag
Labor po.
Siyempre, di ba? Sige, mag-identify tayo ng isang pinaprocess na product. Ano kaya naisip natin? Ano kaya mga pinaprocess na product tapos naging finished good? Yes po? Sorry?
Furnitures.
Furniture. Wag muna tayo doon. Bahin na lang natin. Kasi yung pinipilit ko i-figure out ninyo, isang factory. Diba? So, yung pag furniture kasi, hindi masyado classified as factory, diba? Yung area.
Gardenia na lang, sir.
Sige, gardenia na lang. So, isipin natin yung gardenia. Ano yung mga raw materials na meron sa gardenia?
Harina po.
Flour po.
Yes, that's correct. So, harina or flour, milk, di ba? Meron pa yata yung gatas kasi sinasabi nila masarap daw kahit walang palaman. So, siguro may gatas. And then may itlog. Ano pa kaya? Baking powder siguro kasi maalsa-alsa, malambot.
Yeast po.
Yeast.
Yeast. So tama. Yeast, syempre, yan yung mas natural, yung yeast. So, ano pa kaya? Asin. So, may onting asin, kaya malinamnam. So, ito yung mga products. Ito yung mga products para maging isang tinapay, yung gardenia. Yun yung mga raw materials pala, sorry. Yun yung mga raw materials para maging gardenia or tinapay, yung mga raw materials na ginagamit. Pero paano siya nako-convert kung raw materials yon? So anong ginagawa? Isasalang sa production. Ngayon, pag isasalang sa production,
May machinery po.
may machinery. So that's correct, di ba? Merong machineries. So they use machineries para doon. Ano pa?
May human labor din po.
Yes, may labor din, di ba? So, merong labor. Ano pa? Ano pa kaya naiisip natin? So, may labor, may machineries na ginagamit, di ba? Machineries used. Siyempre, hindi naman to gumagana yung machineries kung hindi mo gagamitan ng overhead, di ba? So, ano yung mga overhead na yun? Electricity, di ba? Electricity, ano pa ba? Water, indirect supplies.
Maintenance.
Nakukuha po ba?
Yes po.
So yun yung mga example ng mga overhead expenses. Meron na tayong labor, machineries used. Yung machineries used is actually part ng overhead. Diba? Overhead cost ito. So syempre, sa production, hindi mako-convert ang raw materials into finished goods kung hindi kayo mag-infuse ng labor, machineries, overhead. Machineries used as part of overhead, and then other overhead like electricity, water, indirect supplies. Nakukuha po ba? And then, syempre, kapag inad mo na yung raw materials, you placed it in the production, mako-convert siya into finished goods. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba? So, kung nandyan na yung mga factors for production like labor, overhead, machineries used, yung raw materials, mako-convert na into finished goods. So, na-convert na siya into finished goods. Previously, from being a raw materials or supplies, kapag dumaan sa production, nagiging siyang finished goods. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba? Nakakasunod po ba? Na-imagine po ba yung sinasabi ko?
Yes po.
Yes. Ngayon, syempre, may labor, di ba? May labor. So, merong human weakness. May human weakness tayo kasi naglalagay tayo ng human labor, di ba? So, hindi ibig sabihin na lahat ng pinoproduce natin ay natatapos. Siyempre, napapagod rin yung mga tao. 8 hours lang sila pwedeng mag-work. Kayo ba kapag pinagtrabaho kayo, pwede kayo magtrabaho ng 24 hours?
Hindi po.
Hindi. So, ibig sabihin, hindi lahat natatapos into finished goods. Nakukuha po ba? Kasi kung lahat natatapos into finished goods, imagine niyo Pasko or bagong taon, nagtatrabaho yung mga trabahador doon sa factory, nagpuputukan na sa labas, Sila, trabaho pa rin ng trabaho kasi sabi nila, ay bawal, hindi matapos to, kailangan lahat maging finished goods. Kasi ang sabi ng gardenia, freshly baked. Kaya siya masarap kahit walang palaman. Tama po ba? Pero dahil merong factor ng human weakness at machine error, hindi lahat kayang tapusin. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba? So hindi lahat nagiging finished goods. Nag-agree po ba kayo?
Yes.
Yes. So itong nasa production, yung mga not yet fully completed goods, ang tawag doon, work in process, diba? So yun yung mga work in process inventories. Yung mga hindi pa tapos, ang tawag doon, work in process inventory. Nakukuha po ba?
Yes po.
Yes po.
Alright. So from raw materials, kapag plinis mo siya in production, work in process inventory yun, and then kapag natapos na, finished goods. Kaya kung makikita natin yung normal na alam natin classification ng inventory, finished goods, work in process inventory, ito yung mga hindi pa tapos, and then raw materials, ito yung purely from raw materials, inventory siya. And then yung mga related factory supplies or manufacturing supplies, inventory din yung classification natin. But these inventories classified here are just under the manufacturing concern, di ba? So under yan ng manufacturing concern. Nakukuha po ba? So this is all under the manufacturing concern. Pero, hindi lang naman nakafocus sa manufacturing concern ng ating accounting. Meron din tayong tinatawag na merchandising concern. So ano yung meron sa merchandising concern naman?
Reselling po.
Reselling, that's correct, di ba? You buy goods, you buy goods, and then you sell goods. So those who are engaged in buying and selling of goods are under the merchandising concern. So ano yung classification natin sa inventories na binili mo and then subsequently you will just sell it to your customers? So ano yung classification nyo doon? Can you still hear me, class? Kailangan maintindihan natin yung pinaka-thought ng transaction. Bakit ganon? Kaya doon din natin malalaman, kaya pala ganito yung tawag sa inventory na to. So those who are engaged in buying and selling, anong tawag doon sa inventory nila? Anyone from the class? Can you still hear me?
Merchandise.
Merchandise inventory.
That's correct. Merchandise inventory. So ang tawag po ay merchandise inventory. Di ba naalala nyo yun sa accounting tuning nyo? So merchandise inventory. Bakit siya merchandise inventory? Kasi under merchandising concern. And then, so lumalabas, ang merchandise inventory pala is classified as inventory. So yung nakita nyo lang sa libro ninyo, ang nakasulat doon, finished goods, work in process or goods in process, raw materials inventory, factory or manufacturing supplies inventory. Tapos meron pa palang merchandise inventory. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba?
Yes po.
Yes po.
Ano pa kaya yung mga ibang example ng inventory? Meron pa po ba kayong ibang example ng inventory? Adam, do you have any idea? Do you have any idea, class? Ano pa po ba ang naisip ninyo na pwede maging inventory?
Yung ano po kaya, sir? Yung sa maintenance po. Maintenance, repair, inventory, or maintenance, repair, operating inventory.
Maintenance and repair. Ito yung mga, ano po yung tinutukoy nyo doon sa maintenance and repairs?
Yung ano po, sir, yung mga ginagamit po sa operations, like yung mga employee uniform, industrial equipment, cleaning supplies, so mga ganun po.
So, these are technically inventories, pero from the point of view of accounting, hindi sila classified as inventory. Anong classified lang natin? Anong classification natin sa kanila? They are just supplies. Supplies on hand. So hindi sila, from the point of view of accounting, hindi sila inventory. Kasi ano ba yung sabi na sa inventory? Inventories are assets held for sale. So kung yung uniform company, uniforms, mga supplies, supply materials for repairs and maintenance, hindi naman sila intended for sale in the ordinary course of the business, then they fail to classify as inventories. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba? So we
Yes po.
must stick to the definition na sinasabi ng PAS2 or ng IAS2. Siyempre, kung PAS2, gusto natin gamitin PAS2, that's Philippine Accounting Standards. Pero kung gusto natin mas maganda yung terminology na ginagamit natin, IAS, so International Accounting Standards, number 2. So, same lang rin naman yung component. So, basta we have to stick. Kapag alam nyo yung definition ng inventory based on the accounting standard, hindi kayo malilito na, yung itong mga supply materials na to for repairs and maintenance, hindi yan inventory kasi hindi naman sila intended for sale. Hindi sila held for sale. At hindi lang basta-basta held for sale. Kasi merong ibang held for sale but not in the ordinary course of the business. So kung hindi rin sila nag-fall in the ordinary course of the business, then they will not be classified as inventory. So ito yung lagi ko sinasabi sa mga estudyante ko na para mas maintindihan natin kung paano maklasify ang isang account, line item sa financial statements, kailangan alam natin yung definition. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba?
Yes.
Nakakasunod po ba?
Yes po.
Alright. So, that's correct. Alright. So, ano pa? Ano pa kaya yung naiisip ninyo? Ano pa kayo naiisip ninyo?
Sir,
Na
yung
pwedeng maklasify as inventory? Yes po.
yung products held on consignment.
Products held on consignment. Well, products held on consignment are technically inventory. But the question there is, sino yung dapat mag-record ng inventory? Yung consignor ba or si consignee? So, di-discuss natin siya later on. Pero, if you're asking me if consigned goods are inventory, yes, they are inventory. Nakukuha po ba? So, consigned goods inventory. So, these are also inventory. But the question here, once again, sino yung dapat mag-record ng inventory? Is it the consignee or is it the consignor? So, we will know it on the later part of our discussion. I think George is raising his hand.
Sir, yung
Joseph.
ano po,
Joseph. Sorry, Joseph. Yes
Sir,
po.
yung mga may-ari po ng subdivision, inventory po nila yung mga property na nire-resale po nila.
Yung mga may-ari ng subdivision, kung inventory ba yung kanilang binibentang mga subdivision. Is
Yes po,
that
yung
your
mga property
question?
and land po.
Property and land, yes. The question here is, for us to answer, yung mga property and land ba na meron sila, is that intended for sale? Is that intended for sale? Gusto ba nilang ibenta yun?
Opo, yung tanong ko po, yung nire-resale po nila.
If your answer is binebenta nila, then the classification is inventory. Yung mga developer ngayon, ano ba yung ordinary course of business nila? They will buy land, they will develop the land, they will make it into a condominium or a hotel or either a residential condominium or commercial condominium with their intention to sell it in the future once it is completely finished. So, lumalabas, etong mga developer na to, mga property developers, yun talaga yung ordinary course of the business nila para maibenta. So, ibig sabihin, yung mga units na nandoon, inventory ang classification. Nakuha po ba? Kasi yun yung kanilang purpose. Ibibenta yun, and that is their ordinary course of the business. Is it clear? Is it clear, class?
Yes po.
Yes. Pero, sabihin natin, may isang company. May isang company like, for example, Nestle Philippines. Meron siyang malaking lupa sa Kabuyaw, Laguna. Ang gagawin niya, ibebenta niya. Pag ibebenta niya yung malaking lupa niya sa Kabuyaw, Laguna, will that be classified as inventory? Yes or no?
No po.
No. That's correct. No. The answer is no. Kasi hindi naman nila yon within the ordinary course of the business. Hindi naman yun yung purpose ng Nestle Philippines. Ang pinaka main ordinary course of the business nila, main course of the business is to produce consumer products like Milo, di ba? Nido, etc. Basta lahat ng product ng Nestle. And kahit ibenta nila yung lupa nila doon sa Kabuyaw, Laguna, although we classified it as assets held for sale, hindi sila magfa-fall as part ng inventories. Diba? It can be classified as a non-current asset held for sale, but not an inventory. Nakuha po ba? Yes, Julian.
Sir, ask ko lang po kapag sa service concern po, ano pong type ng inventory meron?
Sa service concern, kung meron bang inventory? Tama
Opo.
po ba? Meron silang office supplies, saka store supplies. But nag-fall ba siya? Check natin ulit yung definition ng inventory under PAS 2 saka IAS 2. Inventories are assets held for sale. Yung store supplies ba nila doon or yung office supplies, is that held for sale? Ibinibenta ba nila? Yes or no? Binibenta po ba nila yon yung office supplies?
Some po, sir, sa iba. Like sa mga salon po. Kunyari.
No, sige. Yung general, if we're talking about service concern per se, then from the point of view of service, hindi makaklasify as inventory yung yung binibenta nilang store supplies saka office supplies. But for the other service concerns, hindi kasi sila purely service concern. Kasi like for example, si Jollibee, ano talaga niya, ang classification niya is a service concern. Kasi ang binebenta niya is the service, not really the product, di ba? Pero meron silang inventory. Kasi it's a food service establishment. Ang binebenta nila is yung service nila, not really the product. Pero they have products. Kasi yung binebenta nga nila, yung food, di ba? So, it's not a pure service. It's not a pure food service. So, similar din with salon. So, binibenta nila yung service nila at the same time because of the evolving change ng marketing strategy, minsan nagbebenta rin sila ng particular product. So, kung yung purpose nila is ibenta talaga yon, like for example, yung isang salon. So, as what Julian have said, may salon. At the same time, yung salon na yon nag-o-offer siya ng limited edition imported na shampoo, 'di ba? So, ang purpose nila doon is ibenta yon, 'di ba? So, yung classification ng mga binebenta na yon, inventory. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba?
Yes po.
Yes. Pero, meron kasi doon, halimbawa, meron silang ginagamit na shampoo, similar din nun. Halimbawa, yung imported rin siya, pero yun naman, ginagamit nila kapag katapos gupitan yung mga customer nila. Kapag katapos nilang gupitan yung mga customer nila, shampoohan nila. So, yung particular shampoo na yon na ginagamit nila, hindi yon makaklasify as inventory, kundi store supplies lang. So, it will be expense kapag na-consume na, kasi hindi naman nila purpose na ibenta yung particular item na yon. Nakukuha po ba? Halimbawa, sabihin natin cream silk or sun silk, yung product na yon. So yung sun silk or cream silk na ginagamit nila kapag sinashampoohan na nila yung customer nila, hindi yon makaklasify as inventory kasi hindi nila yung binibenta. Pero yung mga nandun sa stante, nakalagay, nakadisplay na cream silk saka sun silk, inventory nila yon. Kasi ang purpose nila doon, ibenta talaga. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba? Naintindihan po ba?
Yes po, sir.
Yes. So, para hindi tayo malito, we always have to look on the definition of the particular account item in the financial statement. So, tulad ng sinabi, for inventories, these are assets held for sale in the ordinary course of the business. Or kung hindi man siya binibenta in the ordinary course of the business, it should be in the process of production for such sale or in the form of materials or supplies to be consumed in the production process or in the rendering of services. So, depende yun. Basta ganun yung kapag hindi siya intended for sale, then it will not be qualified as inventory. If it's intended for sale, tapos as long as it's in the ordinary course of the business, whether it's a manufacturing, merchandising, or servicing concern, as long as held for sale siya, intention is para ibenta, and then within the ordinary course of the business, then that will be classified as inventory. Any more question regarding the definition of inventory? Any question, class?
None po, sir.
None. Okay, last na lang. Last na, merong classification. Purchased subcomponents. So, lagyan natin. Purchased subcomponents. So, this is an example of an unusual inventory. Ano kaya yung purchased subcomponents? Any idea? Ano kaya yung purchased subcomponent? Meron po ba kayong idea what is a purchase subcomponent?
Sir, kasama po ba doon yung yung fleet po? Mga discounts.
I'm so sorry.
Yung po, yung delivery charge. Fleet.
That is actually part of the cost, discussion ng cost natin. Yung purchase subcomponent is different. Ano kaya yung sa tingin nyo, ano kaya idea about purchase subcomponent? Do you have any idea what is a purchase subcomponent?
Pwede try lang, sir.
Sige po, sige po. So I wanted to know.
Parang ano lang, sir, base lang po dun sa name niya. Parang substitute po siya dun sa existing na dapat gagamitin natin. Ganun po.
Alright, so malapit na siya, malapit na siya. So ganito yon, yung purchase subcomponent, it is a product that is actually part of another product. Yung normally na nagbebenta ng ganito, yung Apple. Diba pag bumili kayo ng Apple products like iPhone, diba? So ano bang latest na iPhone ngayon? iPhone 12. Kapag bumili kayo noon, nakahiwalay yung AirPods. Nakukuha po ba? So the AirPod itself is a subcomponent of the main product, iPhone. So that subcomponent is actually an inventory. So if you are a reseller, halimbawa meron kang iPhone store, kapag bumili ka ng iPhone from the Apple company, and then you need to buy as well those subcomponents, those are classified as well as inventory. So these purchased subcomponents are actually part of the inventory. Babaan natin, punta tayo sa mga mas affordable phones, diba? Cherry Mobiles. So yung Cherry Mobiles, minsan nagbibigay sila ng mga freebies, di ba? So yung ano ba yung mga freebies na binibigay ng mga ng ibang phones?
Case
Earphone.
Power
So
bank.
Power bank, di ba? Power bank, ano pa kaya? Speaker.
Tempered.
Yes, tempered glass. Carmela, yes, I think Carmela's raising her hand.
Phone cases po.
Phone cases, yes. So these are subcomponents. Yes, Dagri.
Yung po sir, cellphone stand po.
Cellphone stand, yes. So that's correct. So these product subcomponents or purchased subcomponents form part of the inventory. So classified sila as inventory. Nakukuha po ba? So this is different from the premium. So di ba meron tayong premium na diniscuss before sa liability. So iba yung premium kasi yung premium naman is limited edition of a particular item to boost sales, di ba? Although those subcomponent parts actually boost sales for the cellphone, pero hindi mo kasi sila magagamit kapag hindi mo gagamitin yung cellphone, di ba? Yung speaker will not be effective. It will not run without the use of the cellphone. Siyempre, Bluetooth speakers. So, ganun din yun, di ba? Balik tayo sa iPhone. You cannot connect the AirPods to an ordinary Android iPhone or analog cell phones. Ba? Android phones pala. So, pang iPhone lang talaga siya, di ba? So, these are product subcomponents na kailangan mong gamitin together. So, this the cost related to these subcomponents are inventoriable costs. So dapat ang classification natin sa kanila ay inventory. Nagigets po ba? Nakukuha po ba, class? Yes po. Mia. Yes, Mia. Yes, Mia?
Wala po, sir, napindot.
So sorry. Oo nga, no. Dalawa ka. All right. So, any question regarding the definition of inventory? Any question? Any question, class?
Wala na po.
Wala na po. All right. So, ay, nangyari. Okay. So, none so far with the definition. So, let's try with the scope of inventories. So, yung scope of inventory, actually, it's just an expanded discussion of the definition of inventory. So, yung mga scope of inventory na-identify na natin. Diba? Normally, these are finished goods, work in process, raw materials, factory or manufacturing supplies, merchandise inventory, consigned goods, and then subcomponents. Diba? So, these are the normal inventories. But there are other inventories na hindi natin pala alam. Hindi natin alam, ay, inventory pala to. Ay, para siyang inventory, pero hindi naman pala talaga siya classified as inventory. So, ito yung mga normal scope ng inventory. Ngayon, other scopes, di ba? So, we have practical application to other scope of inventory. Meron tayong practical application to other scope of inventory. So, one example is agricultural produce. So, yung agricultural produce, is that, will that be classified as inventory? Will that be classified as inventory? When we say agricultural produce, ano yung nasa isip ninyo?
Bigas.
Yes po. Bigas. Yes, bigas is an agricultural produce. That is correct, di ba? That is correct. Ano pa yung mga naiisip nyo na agricultural produce?
Milk.
Milk, yes, that's correct. Agricultural produce yun, di ba? So, ano pa? Ano pa kaya? Mga prutas, di ba? Bunga ng mangga, agricultural produce din yun. Siyempre, pag nanggaling sa puno, agricultural produce yun. Yes, Krisha?
Crops po, sir.
Crops, yes, di ba? Mga root crops. Ano pa ba? Basta within, these are produced by the agricultural production. Ang tawag natin doon, agricultural produce. The question is, this agricultural produce, di ba? Ito yung mga na-produce ng agriculture. Ano ba yung intention? Ano yung intention nun? Ibebenta ba yun or hindi?
Bebenta.
Ibebenta, di ba? So normally, kapag ang intention ay ibebenta, will that be classified as inventory? The question here is, will that be classified as inventory? Any idea, class? Any idea about agricultural produce? Sabihin natin, bibigyan ko ulit kayo ng senaryo. May isang farm. Isang farm ng mangga, di ba? Isang farm ng mangga. Mango farm. So, mayroong mango farm. Ngayon, itong mango farm na to, syempre, ano meron sa mango farm? Merong mango trees. Tapos ano meron sa mango trees? Syempre, kapag nagbunga, merong
Mango.
fruits.
Mangga.
Diba? Mango fruits, diba? Mango fruit. So, may mga mangoes. So, these mangoes are the agricultural produce. So, mangoes are agricultural produce. Ngayon, how do we classify for those mangoes?
Inventories.
How do we classify for these mangoes? The classification is, that is correct, inventory. Nakukuha po ba? Inventory siya. Technically and literally, mangoes are inventory. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba?
Yes po.
Yes. Pero, before sila maging inventory under the rule of IAS 2 or PAS 2, kailangan muna silang i-record as agricultural produce under IAS 41 or PAS 41. Kasi ano bang sabi? For agricultural produce, it is a particular standard on how to record inventories that are classified as agricultural produce. Pag agricultural produce kasi, we have to record it at its point of harvest. Siyempre, kapag hina-harvest mo na yung mangga, how do we record it? At the point of harvest. So, ang sabi ng standard, IAS 41, record agricultural produce at its fair value less cost to sell. Diba? Yan yung sinasabi ng IAS 41. So, nakakasunod po ba, class? Nakakasunod po ba? Kapag hinarvest mo yung mangga, hindi mo siya muna i-record as inventory under IAS 2, i-record mo muna siya as agricultural produce under IAS or PAS 41. Paano ito i-record? Fair value less cost to sell at the point of harvest. Ngayon, na-harvest na. Kung na-harvest na, yung fair value less cost to sell, that is the cost of mangoes. Diba? So, ika-classify na natin siya as inventory kasi ang purpose na natin, ang intention na natin is to sell it to the market. So, i-reclass natin siya from agricultural produce now to inventory. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba? Nakakasunod po ba?
Yes po.
Yes.
So, we have to record it IAS 41, under IAS 41 at the point of harvest. And then, IAS 2, subsequently. Nakukuha po ba? Nakakasunod po ba, class? May nalilito po ba? May nalilito po ba, class? Okay, next one is core inventories and spare parts. So, core inventories and spare parts. paano natin ika-classify ang core inventories and spare parts? Ano nga ba ang core inventories? Ano ang spare parts? Yes, Joanne.
Napindot lang po.
I'm sorry. Alright. So, ano yung core inventory? Ano yung spare part? Any idea? What is a core inventory? What is a spare part? So, walang sumasagot. I presume walang merong idea. So, pag sinabi natin core inventory or spare parts, ito yung mga part ng isang machinery or equipment na very major, kailangan nung equipment na yon. Nakukuha po ba? So, kaya siya core inventory. Like for example, ang isang machinery sa factory, kailangan niya nung makina doon sa gitna nung machine. Yung revolving belt. So, ito ay core inventory. But the word inventory does not specifically or does not expressly tell that these core inventories are classified as core inventory. So, anong classification natin sa core inventory? Nakakasunod po ba? Naiintindihan po ba ako? Can you still hear me, class? Can you still hear me?
po.
Yes. Okay. So, ulitin ko ha, yung core inventory, saka spare parts, these are parts of the machinery or equipment. So, kaya nga core inventory, isa siya sa major part ng equipment na kailangan. While yung spare parts, ito yung mga small parts na kailangan din for the machinery and equipment. Ngayon, what is our classification for the core inventories and spare parts? Letter A, inventory. Letter B, property, plant, and equipment. Letter C, office supplies. Or letter D, store supplies. So what's your answer, class? What's your answer? Can you still hear me?
PPE.
That's correct. Property, plant, and equipment. Kasi these are parts of the property, plant, and equipment. Kaya ang classification natin sa kanila ay PPE under IAS 16, property, plant, and equipment. So, nagigets po ba? Nakakasunod po ba? If we will have our exam, magkakamali kayo dito because of the term inventory, then you will classify it as inventory. Pero the truth is, core inventories are major parts of a machinery or equipment. Therefore, it is classified as property, plant, and equipment under PAS 16 or IAS 16. Nakukuha po ba? Nakakasunod po ba? Nakakasunod po ba, class?
Yes.
Yes po.
All right. Now, another other scope of inventory. Are you aware of Bitcoin? Diba? Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies.
Yes.
Are you aware of this? Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies.
Yes po.
Yes, all right. So what is our classification for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies? Isipin muna natin pala, what is a Bitcoin? What is a cryptocurrency? Ano yung itsura ng Bitcoin? Doon muna tayo sa Bitcoin. Ano yung itsura ng Bitcoin? So Bitcoin is an identifiable non-monetary asset without physical existence, di ba? Or physical substance. So Bitcoin is an identifiable non-monetary asset without any physical substance. So kapag bumili ka ng Bitcoin, ano ba yung natanggap mo? A number of Bitcoins na hindi mo naman nakikita. Nakukuha po ba? Di ba binibenta to online? So binibenta online yung Bitcoin, hindi naman natin nakikita kung ano yung itsura niya. Aware lang tayo, there is a Bitcoin. Diba? So now, ang classification, ano yung classification natin for Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies?
Intangible asset.
Ano yung classification natin for Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies? So I have heard intangible asset. So, kailangan muna nating identify ano ba yung purpose para bakit siya bumili ng Bitcoin. Ano yung purpose? Bakit siya bumili ng Bitcoin? If the purpose, di ba? If the purpose is to resell it, then classification natin siya under IAS 2 or past 2 inventories. Kasi yung purpose mo is to resell it, di ba? But if the purpose is to hold it for appreciation or accretion, then it will fall under IAS 38 or past 38, intangible assets. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba? Nagigets po ba, class?
Yes po.
Alright. So any question regarding the scope of inventory? Any question regarding scope of inventory? So your silence means, I think, naintindihan nyo naman, no? So let's go now with the cost of an inventory. Cost of an inventory. So how do we measure cost of an inventory? How do we measure cost of an inventory, class? How do we measure cost of an inventory? Mini-measure natin ang cost of an inventory sa dalawang recognition. Initial recognition saka subsequent recognition. So dito muna tayo sa initial recognition. Paano natin i-record ang cost ng isang inventory? Kakasunod po ba? Can you still hear me?
Yes po.
Alright. So, anong sabi ng path 2 or ES2? How do we record for the cost of inventory? How do we record for the cost of inventory? Anyone from the class? May sinasabi kasi si ES2, paragraph 11, na record daw natin ang cost of an inventory depende kung paano mo siya na-obtain, yung inventory na yon. So we have cost of purchase, di ba? Siyempre, kung binili mo siya, na-obtain mo siya by purchase, then we have to record it using the costs of purchase, di ba? And then, meron din tayo costs of conversion, di ba? So, costs of conversion. Pag sinabing cost of conversion, ito yung kinonvert natin siya from a raw materials papunta sa finished goods. So, yun yung cost of conversion. And then, we have other costs. Diba? Other costs. So, balik tayo dun sa cost of purchase. Ano ba yung component ng cost of purchase? Paano natin masasabi that cost is part of the cost of purchase? Ano sabi ng inventory ng ES2 or past 2? Can you still hear me?
Yes,
Discounts po, sir. Trade
Okay.
discounts.
So, balik muna tayo doon. Sa cost tayo. Cost muna tayo. So, ano daw yung mga components ng cost of purchase? So, nagigets nyo naman, di ba? Initial recognition, sabi ng accounting standard, sa initial recognition daw, depende kung paano mo na-obtain yung inventory. Either through purchase, binili mo, kinonvert mo from raw materials to finished goods. So, you have cost of purchase, you have cost of conversion, and then you have other costs. Ngayon, ang question natin, paano natin ma-identify ano ba yung kasama sa cost of purchase? Yes po, Julia.
Try lang po. Yung mga taxes po and sa transportation po.
Yes, that's
Transport.
correct. That's correct. So, ilalagay ko dito ha. Ilalagay ko sa gitna. Taxes. So, that is included as part of import duties and other taxes. So, yung import duties and other taxes, dapat yung mga na-incur mo to habang binibili mo siya, hindi yung binili mo na. Kasi kapag after mo siyang binili, tapos may binayaran ka pang mga taxes, expense na yon. Kailangan mai-incur mo yung import duties and other taxes habang binibili mo siya. So that will form part of the cost of purchase kasi yun ay incidental sa pagbili mo. Pero kapag nabili mo na siya, tapos sasabihin ng government sa'yo, oy, bumili ka ng ganyan, kailangan mo magbayad ng ganitong tax. Then, that is after the point of purchase. So, hindi mo na yan dapat i-record. Nakukuha po ba?
Yes po.
Ano pa? Yung sa cost of purchase. Ano ba yung pinaka-main cost for the purchase?
Purchase price po.
Purchase price. That is correct. So, purchase price. Purchase price. Yeah. So, yung pinaka-main cost of purchase is the purchase price itself. Kasi, syempre, paano mo ba bibilhin yung isang product? Through its cost, through its purchase price, diba? So, the main component for the cost of purchase is its purchase price, plus incidental cost. Ano yung mga incidental cost to bring the inventory to its present location and condition? magbabayad ka ng import duties and other taxes habang binibili mo siya. Nakukuha po ba? Tapos, ano pang nai-incur mo kapag bibili ka ng nung mga inventory?
Right.
Siyempre, kung sa malayong lugar, kailangan mo pa ng pamasahe, di ba?
Handling fee.
Handling, yes, that's correct. Wait for a moment, class. So, kasama yung handling costs, di ba? Handling costs, ano pa?
Right.
Transportation cost. Ano pa po? Yes, class. So, ano pa po? Yes. I think someone's raising his or her hand. Ano pa po kaya? So, from the cost of
Kasama po ba yung trade discount sa purchase price? Ay,
For
sa
the-
cost of purchase?
all right. So that we have to consider that. Pero instead of adding, we have to deduct. Nakukuha po ba? We have to deduct. So we have to put a note that trade discounts, rebates, and other similar items are deducted in the cost of purchase. Nakukuha po ba?
Yes po.
Yes po.
Yes. Ano pa po? So, aside from these costs na na-identify natin, purchase price, import duties and other taxes, handling cost, transportation cost, ano pa kaya yung ibang cost na pwede natin ma-identify?
Kasama po ba yung commission cost?
Commission costs. Yes. That is included. Pero depende kasi kung paano yung treatment for that cost, di ba? Normally kasi may mga commission, ganito class ha, makinig sa akin ha, may mga commission na na-obtain ng mga sales agent para ibenta yung isang product in general. For example, ganito ha, ganito. sa likod ng commercial, sa likod ng isang commercial, si Sarah Geronimo, kumakanta siya endorsing shampoos. Di ba may commercial si Sarah, may shampoo siya. So habang kumakanta siya, merong maraming shampoo sa likod niya. Now, if you're the sales agent and then you're obtaining commission for selling those products that is generally sold in the market, then the commission is considered as expense. Hindi siya magiging part ng inventory. Nakukuha po ba? Kasi general yun for general market. So, yung cost doon is not specifically identified for these products. Now, kapag yung product na binibenta, very rare, particular product lang yun, hindi na siya pwedeng ma-produce pa in the future. Ngayon, yung commission, kapag may commission na related doon, it can be form part of the inventory. Nagigets po ba? Naiintindihan po ba?
Yes po.
All right. Okay, so any more questions? So purchase price, import duties, and other taxes. So as I've said, dapat these import duties and other taxes must be incurred during the purchase, diba, of the inventory. Kasi, like for example, may mga import duties and other taxes kang babayaran after na-purchase mo, then that is expense. Pero at the point of purchase, lahat ng related cost, incidental cost para doon, that will form part of the cost of the purchase of inventory. Then handling cost, transportation cost, and other directly attributable costs kasama as part of the inventory. Kasi di ba minsan bibili ka ng inventory pero dahil mamahalin yung inventory na yon, kailangan ipa-insure mo siya, di ba? Yung iba ganon, di ba? Naka-experience naman kayo ng ganon. Kailangan ipa-insurance. Kasi syempre sobrang mahal ng inventory na yon. So, kapag binili mo siya, tapos kailangan mo ng insurance, then the cost of the insurance, that will form part of the inventory. Pero kapag nabili mo na siya nabili mo na siya, tapos ipapa-insure mo siya ulit, then yung insurance cost na yon will not form part of the inventory, kundi insurance expense mo na yon. Nakukuha po ba? Kasi after na ng point of purchase. Nagigets po ba, class? Do you have any question? Can you still hear me, class? Can you still
Yes
hear
po.
me? Yes. Okay. So I think no more questions with the cost of purchase. Ngayon, alam na natin kung ano yung mga component ng cost kapag binili mo ang isang inventory. Ngayon, ano naman yung mga component ng cost ng inventory kapag ipoproduce natin siya, i-convert natin siya into a finished goods. So, ano yun? Dapat i-identify naman natin yun. So, do you have any idea?
Direct labor po.
Come again? Direct labor. Tama po ba?
Yes po.
Yes. So, direct labor. We have direct labor. Ano pa?
Production overhead.
Yes, production overhead. That's correct. Production overhead. May cost accounting na po ba kayo? Wala pa.
Yes po.
Meron na. So you have already the cost accounting. So sa production overhead, dalawang klase kasi. We have variable overhead and then fixed overhead, di ba? So ano na yung mga example, mga components ng variable production overhead saka fixed production overhead? Doon muna tayo sa variable production overhead. Ano yung mga example ng variable production overhead?
Indirect
Indirect,
labor and indirect material.
indirect materials, and indirect labor. That is correct. So tama, di ba? Ano naman yung mga example ng fixed production overhead?
Depreciation. Rent po.
Depreciation. So lagay natin factory depreciation kasi related to sa factory production. Di ba? Ano pa?
Rent po.
I'm so sorry.
Rent.
Factory rent. Lagay natin, factory rent. Ano pa?
Maintenance po.
Factory maintenance, di ba? So, hindi lang siya basta-basta maintenance, ha? It should be related to the production. So, factory maintenance, factory equipment maintenance. So, dapat related sa production. Ano pa? Cost of factory management and administration. Kasama yon sa fixed variable overhead. Siyempre, yung supervisor, yung salary nun, kasama yon sa fixed production overhead, yung factory supervisor, and then factory foreman, kasama din yun sa fixed production overhead. Kasi regardless of the produced number of units sa production, fixed pa rin yung pasahod mo sa kanila, di ba? Kung 50,000 units lang yung na-produce, ganito pa rin ang sahod ng factory supervisor. Kung more than that, kung more than the 50,000 units yung na-produce, fixed pa din yung sahod ng factory supervisor. Ano pa? Meron pa po ba? Cost of conversion, class. Check natin doon sa taas. Ano yung pinag-aralan natin? Under the manufacturing concern. Saan ano yung nakita ninyo? Labor, overhead, raw materials. So kasama din pala ang raw materials, di ba? So direct materials. So the direct materials, the direct materials are also included in the cost of conversion. Kasi dito sa production overhead, may indirect raw materials. So yung identify natin, yung direct raw materials. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba? Can you still hear me? Can you still hear me, class?
Yes po.
Yes po.
So these are the normal costs of conversion. Meron pa po ba? Meron pa po ba, class? Meron pa tayong tinatawag na joint product costs. So, ano naman yung joint product cost? Meron po ba kayo idea for joint product cost? Meron po ba kayo idea for joint product cost? Hey, class. Idea po ba? Nakikinig pa po ba sa akin? Or tinatamad na mag-aral? Napapakinggan pa po ba ako?
Yes po, naririnig ko po.
Okay. So, class ha, I know tinatamad na kayo siguro, pero syempre, before we go with the computation, we have to understand the theories and the principles behind this. Syempre, kapag nagbigay ako ng computation, dapat alam nyo na yung principle. So, paano yung joint product? Meron tayong, mag-imagine tayo. So, meron tayong isang product. So, one product, ano bang magandang one product? Crude oil, di ba? So, itong crude oil na to, kapag prinasa siya, so ipaprocess natin siya. Kapag prinasa siya sa fractional distillation process. Pag prinasa siya sa fractional distillation process, itong crude oil na to, nai-split siya into two products. Diba? Or pwedeng three products. Meron tayong tinatawag na petroleum. Meron tayong tinatawag na gasoline. And then, meron tayong tinatawag na diesel. Nakakuha po ba? Nakakasunod po ba?
Yes.
Yes. So, lumalabas, itong tatlong product na to ay joint products ng isang product, which is the crude oil. So, kapag fractional distillation mo yung crude oil, makahati siya sa tatlo. So, lumalabas, tatlo pala yung product na nandun sa crude oil. Petroleum, gasoline, and then diesel. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba?
Yes po.
Yes. Ngayon, habang pinaprocess mo siya using the fractional distillation, may nai-incur ka na costs. Costs incurred in splitting the product. Diba? So, ang tawag doon, joint cost. So, that is what you call joint cost. Ngayon, yung joint cost na yon, nakukuha po ba? Yung joint cost na yon na na-incur for splitting the crude oil into petroleum, gasoline, saka diesel, dapat hahatiin mo yon doon sa tatlong product na na-produce mo. Petroleum, gasoline, diesel. So how will you split the joint cost sa tatlong product? Based on the net realizable value of each product. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets mo ba?
Yes po.
Is that under the conversion cost? Yes. Kasi when you're splitting the crude oil into three products, that is under the conversion process. So yung joint cost mo, dapat is i-account mo separately and properly into these three new products. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba?
Yes.
Yes. Minsan, kapag pre-process further mo pa, diba? Process further. Pag pre-process further mo yung, further. Pag pre-process further mo yung isang product, nakaka-produce siya ng isa pang product. Like for example, yung gasoline, pag pre-process mo pa further, nakaka-produce siya ng isa pang product, which is kerosene, di ba? So, etong kerosene na to, meron na naman siyang joint cost. Kasi yung gasoline mo, mas split na naman sa dalawa. Gasoline, pure gasoline, and then kerosene. So, yung the further joint cost, kailangan i-add mo rin siya as part of the cost of conversion. So, depende naman yun. I-split mo siya sa dalawang product, sa gasoline and then sa kerosene. Nakakasunod po ba? Nagigets po ba, class?
Yes po.
Alright. So, naiintindihan na po ba why joint product cost is included as part of the conversion cost?
Yes po.
Alright. So, naiintindihan na. So, last is the other cost. So, ano yung meron sa other cost? Ano meron sa other cost? Ano yung mga cost included as part of other cost, tapos nilalagay natin as part ng cost ng inventory? Bibigyan ko kayo ng isa. Una, we have borrowing cost. So, ano yung borrowing costs? Ano yung borrowing cost? Borrowing cost is a capitalized interest cost. Pag-aralan niyo na po ba ito? Naabot niyo na po ba itong borrowing cost? Na-discuss na po ba ninyo, sa inyo ito ng iba niyong professor?
Hindi.
Hindi pa po. Sige, ipapaliwanag ko siya sa inyo. Minsan kasi, merong mga asset na kailangan mo na malaking pondo para magawa iyon. Ano kaya yung mga assets na malalaki, sobrang laki, kailangan ng malaking pondo para matapos iyon? One example is building, di ba? Pag gumawa ka ng building, kailangan mo ba ng maliit na halaga o malaking halaga?
Malaki.
Malaking halaga, di ba? Siyempre, kapag malaki yung halaga na kailangan mo, may available ka bang pera or wala?
Wala po.
Wala. So kapag wala kang available na pera, mangungutang ka ba or hindi?
Mangungutang.
Yes, that's correct. Mangungutang ka. So kapag mangungutang ka, may interest ba?
Meron.
Yes. Nakukuha po ba? So kapag mangungutang ka, merong interest. Ngayon, paano natin kinakapitalize yung interest na related doon sa paggawa ng isang malaking asset? Dapat daw, anong sabi ng standard? Dapat daw, masabi siya, maklasify siya as a qualifying asset. Dapat daw maging qualifying asset ang isang asset para makapitalize yung interest na related doon sa borrowing cost. Paano masasabi na qualifying asset ang isang asset? Anong sabi ng accounting standard? In order to qualify as a qualifying asset, the asset should be completed after so many years. So, after ilang years, bago pa matapos yung asset na yon, yun yung qualification niya para maklasify yung isang asset as a qualifying asset. Yung building ba, ilang taon bago matapos? Do you have any idea? Yung building kaya, ilang... Depende sa dami, di ba? But sobra ba? Sobra ba isang taon kapag tatapusin?
Mga 3 to
5 to 10 po.
So normally, di ba, 5 to 10 years. So will that qualify as a qualifying asset? Will that
Yes.
qualify as a qualifying asset?
Yes.
Yes. So kapag nag-qualify sa qualifying asset, yung interest na na-incur mo doon sa borrowing, sa loan borrowings, ilalagay mo siya as part ng cost ng asset na yon. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba?
Yes po.
Yes, all right. So balik tayo sa inventory. Kasi binigyan ko kayo ng introduction paano kinakapitalize yung interest. Dapat daw qualifying asset. Ngayon, balik tayo sa inventory. Ano-ano kaya yung mga example ng inventories na pwedeng maging qualifying asset? Meron po ba kayo? Ano kayo mga naisip niyo na malalaking inventory? Sobrang laking inventory. Binibenta. Sobrang laki ng inventory na yon. Ilang taon bago gawin? Meron ba kayo idea? May naisip mo ba kayo? Sige, bibigyan ko kayo ng idea.
Bahay?
Yung mga gumagawa ng barko, di ba? Yung gumagawa ng barko, gumagawa ng eroplano. Sa tingin nyo, kaya ba isang taon gawin yung isang barko na maganda? Yung isang eroplano na maganda, matibay kapag lumipad, hindi magkakalas-kalas?
Hindi po.
Yes. So sino yung mga mamimili ng eroplano? Mga airlines, di ba? So mga airlines ang bumibili ng eroplano. Ngayon, yung nagbebenta ng eroplano, yung gumagawa ng eroplano, sa tingin nyo, anong classification nila doon sa eroplano? Inventory, di ba?
Yes po.
Yes.
Yes po.
Dahil ang intention nila, ibenta nila yung mga eroplano sa airlines. Ngayon, dahil hindi sapat ang isang taon para matapos ang isang eroplano or isang barko, magka-qualify ba siya as a qualifying asset?
Yes.
Yes, magka-qualify siya as a qualifying asset. Tama po yun. Ngayon, maliit ba na halaga or malaking halaga ang kailangan para gawin ang barko or eroplano?
Malaki po.
Malaking halaga. At minsan, nangungutang pa sa bangko yung mga gumagawa ng eroplano at barko. Siyempre, kapag nangutang sila sa bangko, may related borrowing cost doon. So yung interest noon, since nag-qualify siya as a qualifying asset, ipapatong mo yon as cost nung inventory, nung barko, nung eroplano. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba?
Yes po.
Yes. So that is the concept of borrowing cost. That is the concept of borrowing cost. Do you have any question? Do you have any question regarding borrowing cost? So aware na tayo na yung borrowing cost ay kasama as part of the cost of inventory. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba? Nagigets po ba, class?
Yes po.
Alright. Isa pa ang other cost. Storage cost. Storage cost. Ngayon, class, huwag kayo malilito ha. May mga storage cost. General rule for storage cost. It is an expense. Nakuha po ba? It is a distribution expense or distribution cost. Hindi siya inventoriable cost. Pero there are very rare cases where storage cost is included as part of the inventoriable cost. Ano yung mga example nun? Yung mga gumagawa ng wine. Siyempre, for so many years, hindi mo mapoproduce ang wine ng ilang buwan lang. Kailangan mo ilang taon, di ba? Kaya nga sinasabi, age in oak barrel. Yung mga wine. Siyempre, kapag it age in oak barrel, you require a storage area. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba? Nagigets po ba, class?
Yes po.
Yes. So kapag it requires a lot of years or maturation process, di ba? Kapag it requires a lot of years or maturation process, yung related storage cost para doon will form part of the inventoriable cost ng isang item, di ba? Pero kung hindi naman siya kailangan for maturation process, bumili ka lang ng isang isang tinapay, isang truck ng tinapay, tapos wala kang mapaglagyan, pumunta ka sa isang storage warehouse, binayaran mo yung storage facility para lahat ng tinapay na ibebenta mo nasa magandang kondisyon, yung storage cost noon, hindi mo siya dapat ilagay as part ng cost ng inventory. Kasi, hindi naman nire-require for maturation process yung mga tinapay. Nakukuha po ba? Pero kapag may maturation process or it requires years bago siya maging isang finished product, then the related storage cost, pwede mo siyang ilagay as part of the cost of inventory. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba? Nakakasunod po ba? Naiintindihan pa po ba yung sinasabi ko?
Yes po.
Alright. So last na lang. Last na lang for other costs. Meron tayong tinatawag na non-production overheads or costs of designing products for specific customers. Minsan, may mga special products or ang tawag dito, designed products na hindi mo pwedeng ibenta sa ibang customer kasi that is all only intended for specific customers. Ngayon, if there are non-production overhead or costs related sa pag-design ng product, then ilalagay mo siya as part ng cost ng inventory. Kasi yung inventory na yon is specifically made for a particular customer. Hindi siya for general consumption. Di ba katulad nung kanina, sinabi ko sa inyo, may si Sarah Geronimo, kumakanta siya, merong maraming shampoo sa likod. Ngayon, ikaw yung ahente, kapag nagbenta ka, may commission ka. So, dahil for general use, for general public yung binibenta mo, yung commission ng agent, that is an expense. Pero kung very rare, very particular, very specific product, hindi na siya pwedeng maulit, hindi na siya pwedeng maibenta, nag-iisa lang siya. Yung commission ng sales agent mo, pwede mo siyang ilagay as part ng cost ng inventory. So similar din siya dito sa issue na to. For specific customers, all non-production overheads or cost of designing the products, pwede mo siyang ilagay as part ng cost ng inventory. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba? Nakakasunod po ba? Naiintindihan po ba ako, class?
Yes po.
Alright. So any more question regarding the what we call this overview of the inventory? Overview pa lang tayo. Any more question regarding the overview of inventories?
None po.
None. Okay. So next meeting, we will start to do computation habang ina-identify natin yung inventory. So thank you, class, for joining this meeting, this class discussion. I highly appreciate. We are all 44 in this Google meeting room. So thank you so much, and see you next meeting, probably Monday or Thursday. So, magsisend na ako starting probably weekend nung handout materials. So, previous discussion until this latest discussion. So, meron doong mga exercises. So, sabay-sabay natin siyang a-answeran habang nagdi-discuss para meron tayong idea on how to solve a particular problem in financial accounting. So, thank you so much, class. Class dismissed.
Thank you po.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
po.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you po.
Thank you po.